please do. I'm going to make some time for that. And if you would rather ask him independently, one-on-one, there will still be time afterwards to wander the gallery. So you're welcome to do it that way. Come on in, welcome.
There's seats here.
The other thing I'd like to say is that collectively we want to show gratitude for being able to gather in this gallery today and on these lands. These are the traditional territories of many nations. Some lands are unceded while others are being covered by treaties. Come on in. Welcome. So we'd like to honor the diverse indigenous nations that have called these territories home since time immemorial. So collectively, we're very grateful to be able to gather on this space, and we hope that you take a moment to as well acknowledge that. So we're very grateful for everyone to join us today. We are recording with the camera at the back, but just so that you know, the camera's focused on Will and I, and it only gets the back of your heads. However, I do want to let you know that it is recording, and it's in the corner there. Only for people who are interested in coming to the artist talk and they weren't able to make it, so we wanted to make it available for them as well. It's not going to be shared on any global platforms. It's just for our own use. Yeah. Okay. Are we all good to get started? Oh, there's also a washroom right over here. Feel free to use it at any time. If you get a phone call, please step out of the gallery to address the phone call and come right back in. That's totally fine. We have a more casual setting. I just want to check, Andres, are we okay with the camera lens? Is everything good? Are we all in the view?
The recording
That's
REC is flashing.
It's flashing,
so,
okay. And you're in it, Will. I need you to be in it, not me. Okay, so we'll get started. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start off with a warm-up question. Okay?
Try.
Just to get you going a little bit. Yeah, burpees. 10, please. No. So we at least opened this exhibition description as the 21st century human condition might be in a state of choir. A little bleak for an opening, a little intimidating perhaps. So we also titled this exhibition The New Reality. That was your preference. And you link this title to Friedrich Nietzsche, right? Is that Nietzsche? His reference of the same sort of term there. So we have sub-themes of fire from above, fire from below, wildfires in between, So could you tell us more about your inspiration for this exhibition's title and those sub-themes that we have on display?
Well, since you've mentioned Nietzsche, who is one of my favorite thinkers, Nietzsche said, we experience history as waves, and whatever happens in history has happened before. So everything is just a repetition of the same. And it made me think, a couple of years ago, actually more than a couple of years ago, I had an exhibition on war. And I made a series called War Tarps, and they were full of numbers, financial numbers, and so on. And I researched all the wars in the world, and I found that, at the same time, there's lots of wars going on at the same time. The globe is on fire, if you look at it that way. And on top of that, we are experiencing, especially recently, lots of environmental disasters, which we know we're paying for our neglect of the environment. And right now, for example, there are wildfires burning, and as we know in the news currently, it's disastrous. I want to go to Dvorak, the music of Dvorak. So I thought Dvorak wrote a symphony called The New World. If you listen to that, he painted with music, with the best sounds and intricate sounds, but he managed to convey the mood of landscapes and of civilization, and without saying anything, just painted with music. And I could compare that to the work of Steinbeck, who manages to describe magnificent panoramas in words and to the minutest detail. And I'm really interested in looking at things in the same way. So my son Gavin was the one in my family who always was conscious of the environment. And in my family, we at first, when he was young, we made fun of him. So Gavin's an environment, but he turned out to be right. And so now I have a lot more respect for Gavin. And when I started working on the theme, I thought, okay, environmental disasters, but not everything is environmental. A lot of it is caused by us humans as well, and they cause environmental disasters. So I went back to the idea of war, and I started with a number of war works. At the time, Ukraine and Russia started that conflict. Russia started the conflict with Ukraine, and that helped me a bit to develop these works here. I wanted to show them as a chronicles, and so I thought war is one theme, and I developed the theme of fire for this exhibition. So war, fire from above, missiles, fire from below, volcanoes, and on the earth, wildfires. So the kind of two different sources of fire. And of course, fire, we all know, has been responsible for developing humankind since 200,000 years ago. Fire nourishes us, fire enables us still, and fire destroys us too. So there's a contradiction somewhere, and again, everything is a repetition of the same, eternally. I can also see the show as, if I want to think a bit more in terms of mythology, I can think that I've managed to address three ancient Greek gods. The god of fire, or the titan of fire, Prometheus, there's Ares, the war god, and Vulcan, the god of fire and tools and not the underworld, but volcanoes. So if you want to see it in more of an ancient mythological way, there's a connection. It's more of a romantic idea. When I thought about fire and disaster, I thought, well, I don't really know enough. I don't. I'm not professing to be a specialist on the idea of environmental disaster, but I know that we are being affected and I can react to it. So these are just an honest reaction to what is already going on. But as we know, that last year in Canada, with all the wildfires, I think it's 11, I wrote this down somewhere, 11 million hectares of forest have been destroyed. And in the video, actually, I showed some examples of how trees harbor other forms of life, or trees are nourishing too. Trees help us a lot. So I think, for example, medications come a lot from trees. And so if you destroy these trees, first of all, we lose a lot of environmental advantages, like oxygen, sorry. But also these life forms, together with the trees, get destroyed. Everything underneath the trees get burned. And it's a huge loss. If you just think about Canada alone last year, we had fires in Europe, we had fires in Africa, we had fires in Asia, everywhere. The planet is, in that sense, also on fire. So all this life is gone. And I read a book on the nature of trees, and I was astonished. It just hit me that with all the deforestation, people cut trees off that are like hundreds of years old. So within 10 minutes, 400 years worth of life is just gone. And we don't think about it, we justify it by saying, no, we're going to plant more trees. And then we send kids out in the summer and they plant these trees this size, and then we wait for them. But it takes decades, not even decades, centuries, to replace the life that we had just destroyed. So I feel passionate about this. And on the other hand, volcanoes, which we see as a destructive force, is also a life-giving force in a really dark way. This painting here was made during the eruption of the La Palma volcano in the Canary Islands. And that eruption lasted 85 days. 85 days, but it was a big eruption all the time. The village below was destroyed, people had to flee, lots of people had to evacuate, and then as the lava came down, it created new land. So it's a contradiction too. We're just here, we have no control over what the earth does. So how do we manage, how do we live with that? Volcanoes, wildfires, war. War, I guess, is how we self-destruct and create fire needlessly. It's fire in a negative way.
So thinking about the timing of this exhibition, then you wanted to reflect on what has already passed, but also what has led us to this point and what's actively happening now in the world.
Well, you all know about Jasper, right?
Yeah.
And Jasper has been, they say 30% of the town has been destroyed. Banff is next in line. They're very concerned about what's going to happen to Banff. But I wrote this down. So far, there were 3,700 blazes this year, and it's burned approximately to 2.2 million hectares already. So I think this year is going to be worse. And you know, my little exhibition is not going to make a difference, but at least you know we can say that I'm aware, and I hope you guys are aware of this too. The photographer Ed Bertinsky, you know his work, fantastic. Has already gone there with helicopters, and I'm expecting some great work from him about the fires. So that's about it. How it's relevant.
Yeah, it's relevant, and it helps people, you know, keep it in mind, and to be, it's okay to be reminded of these challenges that we're living with, and you know, but also the resources we have. I mean, with indigenous cultures and their controlled wildfires, if more of that was enacted, then we could avoid a lot of disaster that's happening because we're ignoring a problem, like you said, or hiding it or sweeping it under the rug, right? So.
I grew up in Africa, and you know, looking back, I think in South Africa, wildfires were really managed well. We did proper controlled fires, and lots of times when you drive on a highway, you would see areas being burned by local authorities, just controlling where the fires go. And actually, I think it was last year, they got teams from South Africa actually helping with the wildfires. So I think in terms of my history, it's been there. You know, it's been there for a long time. I see people nodding, I know they know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think you're maybe on target here. Yeah. So thinking then of, you know, this is your reflection of the 21st century, right? What could you maybe hope personally for the 22nd century? What do you want to come? That's a big question, I know. I told you we were warming up.
I don't think I can project that far. You know, if I
what would you hope to see?
So and I the other day talked about cars, and we thought, okay, 50 years from now there may not be cars. The cars may have been replaced. So you know, it's far, but the one thing we know is you've got to control the environment. And if you read back about disasters that wiped out entire species, it happened slowly, without any control. So I think it's something we need to prioritize.
Yeah, and if we are not respectful of the environment, it
actually, I've got 4 grandchildren. I'm thinking, well, you know, they're going to live already in a very different world
Yeah.
than I am.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. That's more about motifs and symbolism in your artwork. So you have some common themes that are around here. We have drones, we have insects. As you look around the room, you'll see these volcanic eruptions. The moon, also moon falling as a sort of sub-theme there. Come on in, yes. As well as, what else do we have? You know, many more that are again forests and sort of grand trees coming together and communicating together. So could you explain some more about your sub-themes, the use of line, color?
I can start with these because, you know, a long time ago, I won't tell you how long ago, when I started as a young artist in South Africa, you know, I was so young and so hopeful. But I fell back on something that my brother and I did. As children, we used to go out in the fields, and not even high school, like elementary school children. We played outside Johannesburg in the fields. There were like lots of hills. And we used to make maps. We used to bury, in our fantasy world, we used to bury treasures and then make maps of the area so we can find the treasures. Our friends, we played the game. That kind of stuck with me. And so by the time I started developing my own bodies of work, I kind of treated my works as maps, as old documents of maps. And you can see, I guess we can look at these as parchments, you'll know what I mean. So I draw on the map, I draw on the document, and then I sync on it. And so the motifs here, this is actually one work for me, they go separately, but it's a chronicle. So it doesn't necessarily tell a story, but it refers to basically the war in Ukraine. And there's a horizon line. So if you see a line going across somewhere, it's the horizon line. The horizon line represents, as far as we can see, in art, we say the horizon line changes as you go higher or lower. And I know a lot of my friends teach that too, that your horizon line is the island. So it's a landscape. They're drawings, they're flat drawings, but to me they represent a kind of a landscape. There's always the triangle here, which is well, it's a personal symbol of relationships. And then you would see drones, and to me the drones have become crosses. So everyone claims to have the right backing, or a religious backing, and yet this is such a contradiction. So crosses, and you see that there are insects, and sometimes the missiles are changing or destroying insects. And one of them, right in the bottom middle, I got a bit more landscapey, so there's flowers and insects, and the insects kind of fly up. And then I put, instead of one moon, I put 2 moons. I thought, okay, maybe this is, you could say that this is if you were, well, you could say that this is 2 planets aligned, or the planets are aligned. That's why these things happen. That lead to another series, which is on the other side, the idea of the 2 planets aligning, or the moon. I felt all the war, people could say, well, it's so bad the moon has dropped from the sky. And so I thought, well, why, instead of putting the moon up in the sky, put it in the landscape. And did a lot of drawings to develop that series. There's a number of paintings, and then eventually did the big one there on the wall called Touchdown. The Touchdown painting is really just a painting of missiles coming down onto a landscape and the moon dropping down into the earth. It's symbolic, I know. But I love that painting. I think it works well. It took me a long time to work on it. You probably going to ask me about it.
You can talk about it
Can I
now.
tell?
Yeah.
So it's a painting that never came together for me in quite a number of years. And where the moon is now, there used to be a plaque, like a fiberglass plaque with a saying on it, the same saying as on these, or a similar saying that is on these. And I painted around this plaque and around it. It just wouldn't work. The painting was too flat for me. So I eventually, out of frustration, ripped out the fiberglass plaque, and then it started getting together. And then I could, thought, yeah, the moon can fit here, and I worked on the landscape as a texture. So I layered it and layered and layered, and eventually it got together. And I thought, well, it was worth spending all that time on painting. So I can talk about a bit about the volcanoes. The volcanoes are more interested to me as eruptions, and I haven't nearly explored that theme yet. But as I work on the paintings, I'm looking for a different kind of content. Not just the literal content. I mean, you see a volcano, and maybe you see some trees, or maybe you can see these as trees back here. But I'm actually looking for the content as communicated by the paint. So if you look at my work, I would like you to look closely and look at the textures, and then you'll see my process, and you'll see what lies below. You'll see how I actually built this up over a period of time. I didn't just fill in a flat area. So I want the paint to have a certain depth, and I hope that comes across.
Yeah.
So if you look at this one, for example, you can see like thick strokes on the top, and can I get up and do this?
Oh, yes. You're not in the camera range.
And
but
over
go
here,
ahead.
over here, you can see, marks as I painted. So you'll see the history of the painting. The same in the red one in the middle. If you look at the paint, the creamy white burning parts, they were put on last, but it's only after several months of work and layering. So in the title piece is the one on the other side. On the other side of this wall, there's a big circle and a volcano. It's called. It says the new reality. Mm-hmm. And that's the piece where I felt I brought a lot of the elements together. It's still a volcano painting, but it brought it together. The insects, actually just before the start, one of my former students was in here, and she said, I remember you teaching us that technique. So I used to teach that to my students. But the insects relate to the trees, and they are kind of victims. I just thought I could actually just have an exhibition of insects of shapes like that. So there are several motifs or several themes here that came together. But where to go next, I'll see. It can go many different directions.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I wanted to ask about the Afrikaans that you have in some of your paintings. So the new reality being the primary expression that you'll see in some of the paintings.
It's an Afrikaans, just Afrikaans word, die nieuwe werkelijkheid, and it means the new reality.
Oh.
Someone asked me if I paint in Afrikaans. I said yes.
I love that. For those who arrived late, just to remind you that there's a camera filming at the back of the room pointed at Will and I. It gets the back of all of your heads, but it's pointed at us, for those who are aware now. I did mention that your video that you put so much effort into has a great explanation of all the motifs and inspirations for this exhibition. It's on pause right now because there's an audio to it, so just so that we're not competing with your video. But I do encourage you to listen to that as well when you get the opportunity. For the motifs, I can tell you how I interpreted some of your artwork. Of course, I know that you're good with color, line, shape, composition, especially you put attention to. So when I'm looking at it, the way that, some of the takeaways that I have is your use of line to me shows like continuation, just like in the timeline, throughout history to the present. So presence of line being a continuation, just like you mentioned horizon in a similar kind of way. And then colors like black and use of platform to me, that's like putting on stage a deep-seated issues, which I know you use the platform as a stage, and you've told me that before, so I'm not making that up. You told me, but black especially, being a perhaps a more negative issue, or like something that you wanted to highlight that stays in the shadows in our day-to-day. And then alarming issues coming in with red, and perhaps cautionary in yellow, or contrarily could be hope because you have archways that are in yellow as well in some of your paintings. And to me, that's more hopeful, especially around the moon. You have archways coming in.
Well, so we said to me, your paintings are very serious, And then, a while ago, I told people, look, I'm happy too. This is what's going on. Like you can't help, you can't ignore it. But I would love to make happy paintings.
Then there'd be nothing to talk about.
Well, so I do want to talk about that, about your other styles, because you do portraiture, which is features in the catalog there, some of your other kind of styles that you do. It's not in this exhibition here, but a little birdie told me as well, her name is Julie, your daughter. She told me about how when she was a kid, you would design maps for the kids, for games, as part of like a sort of exploration games. And your influence from cartography is something you mentioned as well that is embedded in the style that we do see on display this time. So I'm wondering how much of your other styles are influencing your work that's on display in the exhibition, but also, tell me about your artist eye. What to you makes it feel complete? Do you need the cartography element? Why are you looking at your
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you talk about my styles, I think I have a particular style, and that is that I use line.
Yeah.
So whatever I do, the common element is line, my line work. But I do paint portraits on the side, and actually the portraits are necessary because I don't need an art show to make portraits, and it goes by word of mouth. So I do a few portraits every year. I love doing that. What I like about the portraits is I get special time with the sitter, and we go through a process. I see them 4 times, and then the first is a kind of an exploration, and then we have 3 more meetings after I've painted a certain amount of time, and then I keep them involved in the process. Mm. So by the time we sign off the portrait, there's no surprises. And the reason I did that was because I had a professor at university who did a portrait, and he did not follow such a process. He says, and by the end, he was doing a portrait of a dean of university. And then by the end, when he sort of gave him the portrait, the wife says, but this is not a good image of Professor so. And he got so mad, he took a red brush and he painted it across on my face. So I said, I don't want that to happen to me. So I wouldn't want to have to do that. So portraits keep my skills intact. I think I get more practiced. You have to be accurate, you have to be analytical, and at the same time observant. It's a different kind of interpretation than these works. Right. These you take an issue a lot of it is intuitively developed. Go back and think about things like that. I also, if I look at any big works, famous works that I I'm not religious, but I saw a sculpture by sculptor Marisol in New York City, and it was this. It was based on Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. So Marisol recreated this Last Supper in sculptures, but they were all like blocks of wood with a face on. Maybe the hands were separately carved. Beautiful, beautiful. I had to sit there. I'm not one of those people who really get so excited about works. I don't show it, but I had to sit there for a while and just feel jealous, feel envious, and just feel amazed by the work.
Yeah.
So I'd like, and this is probably just a wish. I wish I could create big works like that. Big works. But it comes with experience. It comes with time. Now that I have time.
Yeah, try that one. That's wonderful. Thank you. I was thinking something similar actually when you organized a lot of art tours. And when I was in school, we went to Europe, and then as a part of the school art trip. And I remember seeing the Sistine Chapel, and I'm not Catholic, but the reputation that the Sistine Chapel has, and the I love architecture and art's influence in architecture. So to go in there and to see it no longer in a textbook or in a PowerPoint presentation, but in front of my eyes, and they usher you. You can't take pictures or videos. They make you go through it really quickly. You can't even admire the place. So I was in such shock, really, even though I knew what was coming. I couldn't actually process what I was seeing. But now, somebody who's been in this field 15 years, who's seen all different kinds of architecture all over the place, I really want to go back. I want to see that Sistine Chapel. I want to know what my critique might be of it, or what my impression is of it. Who knows now, right?
She's been teaching me about Istanbul,
Yeah.
Constantinople, the Hagia Sophia.
The Yes. Oh, the eyes is my one.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Jewish.
No, I'm glad that I organized the trips. They were really good. Very hard work, but very good, because I felt that was the teaching moment I was always looking for, to see kids have the aha experience. I remember this one boy in the Museum of Modern Art came to get me. Come and look at this. He dragged me there. And he dragged me to Van Gogh's Starry Night. He said, look at it. And I was so happy to see him have that experience. And then when we got back, he went and he bought some cinder blocks, and he made this huge work of art. I thought, so inspired. That's all I ever wanted. And now I see some of my students who are teachers and instructors, they're doing the same. So they sent me the pictures the other day from the Louvre.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you benefited by that.
Well, yeah, because as we're talking about, you become who you're becoming, right? So then to trace that through your perspective of art is very interesting.
And as it was just made another thought on that you were in class, you were a serious art lover. I could tell, right? And I'm so happy.
I was worried about the direction of this. I was like, what
always, it's so nice when your students, when you meet your students later, and they're grown up and they try to tell you about their lives and stuff. And we don't take credit for that. And you can never take credit. But I'm happy to have been involved, and that's so nice. I see several teachers nodding.
Well, it takes two. The student-teacher relationship.
Yeah. So now, I've got to say this too, I've become the student, and she was the teacher, so having her involved, Selin really did a wonderful job. It is so nice to have someone else to do the curating. take care of every detail.
Yeah.
And felt very special, thank you.
No, thank you. Which actually leads me to my last question before we open the floor a little bit for some Q&A. What was it like working with a past student? Have you done this before? Am I your first?
No, you're the first in exhibitions.
In exhibitions.
Yeah. So I appreciate it.
And you have thankfully told me on several occasions that this was a positive experience.
Yeah, very. Even today, because I know in past artist talks, we had a kind of a show around, and Selin wanted to do it as a bit more formal layout, and I thank you for doing that too. I submitted every step along the way. I submitted, and I thought, I put my own feelings on the shelf because I thought, she's a professional. She knows what she's doing.
To alleviate stress, as much as possible. Because you did the hard work, which is creating all these beautiful works, right? So let me take care of the rest. Yeah. And as someone who has an extensive teaching career, I think you and I agree on this, where we like to pursue a lifetime of learning as well. So this is maybe a learning experience for you, but also for me. I've never curated for a mentor of mine before. That's a whole other pressure.
First, too.
Yeah, it's a really humbling experience, So that I learned quite a bit in the process, and earning your trust and respect in the professional that I am now, and not seeing me as a little student. That's not easy for everybody to do,
You referred with me at some point.
Yeah. I have to keep you in line. So my last question then, to sum this up before I open the floor for anybody to start asking questions, is if you could give your past self a heads up about what's going to come in the future, either leading to this moment or something else that you're looking forward to, me curating your exhibition, it could be anything, what would you tell yourself as a past self to the future self?
I would have stopped teaching earlier.
Oh, interesting.
Tell me.
Yeah. Very interesting.
We benefited so
I'll
much.
Tell you why, because, the last time I taught was 2014.
Okay.
So, in the meantime, I've actually pursued my art, my writing. But it's often harder when you're an older artist. I know I've got lots of experience, and I know that shows. But to deal with younger curators who have a different taste or a different goals. Like, it's just an adjustment, and it's humbling. So I'm trying, and I appreciate every little inch that they give me.
He's great though. How can we not work with you? So, I hope you create for many more years.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for answering all my questions. A little round of applause. The time is 3. So I'd like to dedicate some time now for an audience Q&A. Open floor. If you have something you'd like to ask, please raise your hand and I'll cue you in the lineup. Please.
I'm just curious, when did you graduate?
Oh, me?
Yes. Well, I just kind of want to see how long approximately ago it was that you were a student of Wellesley.
Yeah. Hold on. I graduated from university in 2017, which means I graduated from high school in 2012, 2013.
So it's actually not that long ago.
Yeah, so
you just finished teaching 2014, you said.
yeah,
right?
so 1 or 2 years after I graduated. I was his last good student. That's why.
And did you take art all 4 years?
I
in high
did.
school?
Yeah. How could I not?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it was an experience. I always ask you when the students come back, when I see them meet me on the street, I'm always hesitant because I don't know if I'm being good or bad to you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to pull out a rose or a gun. So,
No, I had a good experience. Yeah. So, yeah, you did. I guess you did stop teaching very soon after that. You caught him at his peak, and then he pulled out.
Because students that take art, or I was a drama teacher, so I know students that studied with me for 4 years, they're serious, right? So, of course, he would see you as being a serious student as well if you studied for 4 years in high school and then went on, you know, post-secondary to study art as well.
Yeah.
That was kind of
I see.
how I was framing it as well, like just for myself, you know?
Yeah.
Because
That's
I
the teacher
know.
measurement.
Yeah, like to understand a student that takes the arts for those many years of their high school experience is different than a student that takes it, you know, for 2 years, or I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore because whatever, you know, and yet you know they love it, but they move on, you know. So it's just a different, that's all, yeah.
And in fact, I remember, I was telling you this, I think, before. I remember parent-teacher interview night. Very specifically, he was talking to my father. And my dad is an engineer, not an immigrant. So, not on the same page with me pursuing in the arts. He thinks I'm capable of so much more than that. And of course now he has a lot of respect for where I am in my career, and he loves it actually. But then he wanted to know, you know, is she on the right path right now, you know, or should I intervene? And then Will's advice was that he should take me to as many art places as possible to see all different kinds of art, because I had a very specific idea of what art should be. And then he said, no, she needs to, you know, expand her mind a little bit more, explore more. And my dad's disciplinary, took that very seriously. Took me to Paris, took me to, like, you know, all these different art galleries, historical sites. He wanted me to get the full immersion now. So he fed into it, right? Like, he was supporting me in all of that. And like, I think not every student has that privilege. But I took it and ran with it. If it was with me,
You
yeah.
had a
I
supportive
know quite a
father,
few
yes.
teachers who've done that, so.
A supportive parent, right?
Sorry.
Michelle, yeah, you had a question.
Oh, my question is about the tree motif, because we didn't talk about it. And to me, they are my favorite paintings. Why? Because as a scientist, I research blood vessels for many years. And when you talk to the patient about blood vessels, you often take the example of trees, because you have the branches, you have the capillaries, you have the vein, you have the arteries. And so to see those paintings with the red in them is just, you know, as you said, witnessing the accident. If you witness blood vessel for 30 years, you always see red. And to see, I love the way you represent the trees seen from above, particularly sorry, this one here, right? And that's very clear in the video how the vision of trees from above or from below is quite different. But I just love those paintings, so I wanted to know if you explain how you use this motif and why the red in those paintings.
Well, the red is, of course, to me, the color of fire. It changed, my palette changed from earth tones, and I had that for decades, actually, earth tones. And then with the fires, I felt I had to do it in more tungent, right? Like it had to be, punch, yeah. So the reds are kind of and I had a lot of red in my box. No. And the other thing that I wanted to do is kind of rise above it a bit.
Yes.
I'm interested in Baudrillard's work on simulacra and simulation, and he talks about human signage and how we communicate to human. His whole philosophy is about the philosophy of science, and that we have the ability to kind of rise rise above ourselves and just think of a map, think of Google Maps. We have the ability to put ourselves out there and look down on our situation. That's amazing. Like, because of, anyway, so I just tried to lift it a bit.
Maybe John?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things, Will, that I really love and resonates with me with these works is the way sort of intertwined the organic line shape with the geometric. Can you kind of expand on the impetus for that?
Oh, that's interesting, because yes, my work, I see my work as lines, right, instead of really color, but I often feel if you just have a scramble of lines, it becomes abstract. So I do like a geometric structure. And that's often, like you saw it, like this, often a triangle. I actually did a whole series in the 1990s called F Triangle. And it was a triangle, but some of these were really big. And referring to a female. The triangle to me was female, it's an upside down triangle. And it was a bit more about relationships and stuff. And actually I had the altar, the platform in there too. So kind of the same idea as that one, touching down on the platform, where I just had a big triangle full of geometric shapes coming down. So it helps me to organize. Good question.
Thank you, Maggie.
I was curious, actually for both of you, what you might think about the role of beauty in artists with themes like this, because I find myself almost feeling really conflicted, like being in a place of admiration. Yeah, just acknowledging that these are beautiful works, and then also with the fact that you said there are honest reflections on things like war and atrocity, the world being on fire in many different ways. So yeah, speaking as an artist and then also as a curator, like I'm curious what you think about the role of beauty and then the themes that you're working with.
Can I go first?
Yeah, please.
I'm glad you asked that question, because that puts us on a philosophical level about what is art, about what is beautiful. And that is philosophers always try to find out why are certain things beautiful to us? Why do we see some things as horrible and so on? But in art, I have to say that beauty is not always emotionally beautiful. We can have something negative that can be absolutely beautiful. Like Jacques-Louis David's portrait of Jean-Paul Marat in the baths. He was killed, and you guys know which work I'm referring to, The Death of Marat. And it's a beautiful work, but it shows a death. And so in art, there's something called vanitas, or the art of the horrible, or, it usually has to do with life and death. And I think you could say that even death can be beautiful. But so if you are in conflict, I understand, and I was in conflict too at some point, because I think, art is about beauty, and I want to make happy paintings. But and I'm generally a happy person. But if you see something negative happening, like let's say a war painting, let's say 18th century wars where it was cavalry and all kinds of stuff, you can make something spectacularly beautiful out of it. And just this thing as in drama. That death can be so touching and beautiful. So we are on a level where it's hard to define. It's hard to define, but I guess we all know when something is beautiful. That doesn't answer your question.
I agree. I'll add on to it that there's beauty in chaos, and there's beauty in I'm thinking of poetry, where some of the most beautiful poems are the most remorseful about despair as well. So but at the same time, to see someone expressing themselves and feeling fulfilled in the act of creating art is beautiful to witness as well. And the product that they make may look beautiful to you only because you know of how much effort went into it, how much thought went into it. So from the curator perspective, themes of environmental disaster is hard to make audiences relate to and enjoy, and purchase even. So my goal is more around, okay, what do audiences look for in what is recognizable beauty to them? So it's use of color and highlighting certain focuses, and so the way that we display a challenging subject is very important for someone to be able to recognize beauty in a topic that is not easily described as beautiful. So when we went around your studio and you were showing me the artwork, I was like, ooh, okay. Heavy hitting, challenging subject, incredibly important subject. A lot of passion going into the artwork, and a lot of attention in creating it, thoughtfulness, which I need to translate now in the gallery. I need people to be able to see the steps that he took, all the thoughts that he had, the layers of texture. I need the light to hit it at a certain angle so people can see all of that, and then they see it's beautiful, right? But if the room was dim, thankfully propellers is a great space to work within. But if the room was dim, if you didn't let me use your sketches, it would make my job a lot harder to be able to show audiences the best parts of it. Does that
I
make sense?
want to add something.
Please.
I have a friend who teaches art in Burundi, and he teaches a very traditional art class. And he says to me, "Will, why do you paint so big?" He says, "People can't hang that in their homes." Well, he's got a point. And he says to me, "And you know what? People like autumn colors." He says they like orange and blue and browns and so on. This is what, if you want to sell your work, that's what you have. And I have no answer for him because I know he's right in that sense. But how do you justify? In the end, it needs time.
But you paint for your own satisfaction, you
Yes.
don't paint to sell, right?
Yeah. And you have
Some
to,
people do, right?
Yeah, some
It
people do.
depends
It's a
what
different-
your
and you have to
objective
put yourself out there. That's the
Yeah.
only way.
And your soul is on the canvas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against traditional. I'm just saying that I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
Thank you for your question. Yes, sir.
Do you think, Will, that you would explore the mutation theme more? But would you expand those into paintings at some point? Like, they're beautiful drawings. Do you foresee that? Like, I know that some of them are some of your more recent works. Do you see that as a new direction, or is that just the tail end of this?
No, thanks for the question. No, I actually spoke to someone earlier today. I said, well, my next exhibition could be just insects. And I could see, something like this, but a bit more complicated, just insects, life forms. And then I thought, actually, that I could, like on a wall like this, if I have 3-4 panels, just full of that, it would work. So it's the possibility that you could create and reimagine, who knows?
Yeah, the lines of them are really.
But it's exciting. I could actually just draw.
Especially with, like the symbol of insects too. I mean, the metaphor of people as insects and who is surviving and who is being squashed, So it's an interesting topic.
We call some people insects.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? I think I saw another hand. Okay. Well, that brings us right on time. As if I know it, too. So it's about 3:15 now. We are going to wrap up. You now have time to continue exploring the gallery, you can ask Will some more one-on-one questions. I'll be putting the chairs away, just so that you're able to navigate the space a little easier, so don't mind me doing that. But thank you so much, everybody, for being able to come for today's artist talk and for just generally supporting the exhibition. If you, again, want to continue supporting the exhibition or the gallery, one, you can purchase any of the artworks that have red stickers on them, you cannot purchase. They're already been taken. But please have a look around, and if you want to purchase something, let Will or myself know. If you want to purchase the catalog that is at the back, please let us know as well as soon as you can. And if you want to support the gallery here, please look at Propeller's website or for ways to donate, or you can also donate here in person. You can talk to Michelle here in pink. So please do continue to support artist-run centers like this so that we can continue to have these kinds of events and be exposed to these exhibitions. Of course, I was going to thank you though first, is that okay? Thank you, Will. But for trusting us with this interrogation, but for sharing your lovely philosophical mind as well with us.
Thank you. Thank you. I did have a sleepless night.
Oh.
No, I didn't. I just want to thank a few people while visit someone to hear it. Selin's done a great job for me. I would recommend her if anyone wants to use the service. And hanging the show was such a pleasure. I had some really good friends. Andres in the back, Sharon Forrest, Michelle came to help with the opening. Tiffany was one of our emerging artists. And then two young emerging artists, Paige Bowen and Francis Itzioudotis. And so we had a team of 8 people here hanging with Selin directing us. That worked really well. At the opening, Michelle, thank you so much for getting all that stuff. And Andres has supported me in so many ways that I can't even mention all of them. I just appreciate it. And to Propeller, because it's a really nice community to be part of. Very soon there's going to be a talk here with a curator from somewhere else. I can't remember who she is. But they do organize talks and other events. But the exhibition afterwards is called the Salon. And that's an annual exhibition where they invite artists from all over to submit works. And then they fill the walls with art.
180 works
Oh,
on the wall.
This is the exhibition that follows mine, so
Yes,
we want to...
opening next Thursday evening.
So thank you so much. I feel really important that you came, but it's an art show. I really appreciate your